What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Force Feed, the show where I keep you up to date on all the most recent gaming news and announcements. It is Friday, January 13th, and today we will be discussing Diablo 3 finally gets a rating in South Korea, the Dark Souls PC petition, developers of Firefall and Minecraft take a stance against SOPA, Shadow of the Colossus making its way over to the PSN, and then lastly, DICE battles Battlefield 3 cheaters. Let's jump into the news. Diablo 3's struggle with the South Korea Game Rating Board has finally come to a close. The game has finally received a rating of 18+ for the South Korea Game Rating Board. The noticeable exception to this, of course, is going to be that it is going to not include the Real Money Auction House. Blizzard decided to submit Diablo 3 sans Real Money Auction House just to get the game rated. They are going to try to attempt to add it later on, but since the game has already been rated by the Game Rating Board, it does not need to go through them anymore. So we no longer have to deal with any issues of them holding up further development. Namco Bandai has taken note of the overwhelming response to an online petition asking for a PC port of Dark Souls. In the short amount of time that the petition has been online, it has already garnered over 64,000 signatures. Now, a community manager for Namco Bandai came out and stated, if you wanted to have the attention of Namco Bandai games, now you have it. The future is in your hands, and I hope you continue supporting this. I make a personal objective to make sure every relevant people in Namco Bandai games is in touch with this formidable effort. Now, this is something that is really exciting for me, as I have been very much so looking forward to playing Dark Souls, but I'm in the unfortunate position of not currently having a console. Hopefully this petition does actually end up working and actually gives them enough incentive to produce a port of Dark Souls. I realize a major hang-up when porting from console to PC is the concern of piracy, but hopefully they can look past this and eventually end up getting the game onto the PC. Firefall developers Red 5 Studios, as well as Minecraft's Marcus Persson, have joined the ever-growing list of developers who oppose the upcoming SOPA bill. Now, Firefall developers will actually be closing down the beta on January 18th as they join the Reddit one-day protest against the SOPA Act. CEO Mark Hearn came out and told Shack News that the upcoming bill would actually hurt smaller game companies that would not have the legal resources to protect themselves in case they ever got shut down from SOPA. He actually came out and stated, "We are ashamed of the ESA for supporting a bill which is clearly not in the best interest of the gamers or the game industry. We call an issue to all industry peers, including developers, publishers, and game press, to join us in letting the ESA know that they do not represent our views on this issue, and we strongly oppose SOPA." He even went as far as to say that they would not be attending this year's E3 unless the ESA decided to reverse their current stance on the bill. This is something we've talked about a lot in the past, and we will be talking about it many more times in the future, as it is really that important. I'm happy to see the developers of Firefall, as well as Minecraft, have finally decided to take a stance. ICO and Shadow of the Colossus will be making their way onto PSN this Tuesday, January 17th. If you have not tried either of these games, although they are relatively old, they are very phenomenal and something that you should certainly check out. Shadow of the Colossus is one of my favorite all-time games. Definitely going to give it a thumbs up and suggest that if you have access to PSN, that you take a look at this title. Each of the games are going to be available for $19.99 each, so if you're going to decide to choose one over the other, it doesn't really matter. I personally would go with Shadow of the Colossus. DICE, the developers of Battlefield 3, have already handed out bans to several hundred confirmed cheaters, and they do plan to continue this in the future. If you were caught cheating in the game, do expect to get banned. They came out and made a statement that we have always taken cheating seriously. Starting today, we will further intensify our efforts to hunt down and rid Battlefield 3 of cheaters. They went on to say that if you happen to spot a cheater in the game, make sure to report them, as it is their best way of spotting cheaters and being able to track down whether or not they are actually using cheats in the game. Obviously, everyone wants an even playing field, and cheaters kind of take that away from us, so make sure they report anyone you see cheating. And then lastly, I will of course be wrapping things up with the question of the day. If you would like your question answered here in the Force Feed, you can send it to the Force Feed at forcestrategygaming.com. Once again, that is the Force Feed at forcestrategygaming.com. Today's question comes in from TuckHill149, and he says, "Hey Force, what do you think is the right way to do DLC, and what do you think is a particularly bad way to do DLC?" Well, when it comes to DLC, there's one form that I've got a huge problem with, and that is day of launch DLC, which you have to purchase. Now, if you have day of launch DLC which doesn't cost any money, say while they were going through the process of actually packaging and shipping, there is a period of time where the game has to be complete, and then they need to get it onto store shelves. And obviously during that time, if the developer works on more content and then allows it for free download on day one, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. If they're going to charge you on day one, if they're going to charge you a week or two later after a game ships, I think that that's kind of a major issue. That should not be taking place. Something that happens maybe a few months after the launch, if they want to charge for extra content, be it extra map packs or an extra level on any particular game, I think that that is okay. But day of launch DLC that costs money, I've got a huge problem with. When it comes to just adding vanity items as well, I'm okay with that because that's not something that actually directly affects gameplay, especially in multiplayer games where there's a competitive aspect to it. I don't like to see them add DLC, which is going to give people a competitive edge if they buy it, and if they don't, they're at a disadvantage. So that's pretty much my stance on DLC. I'm sure I could go more into it, but that's what I'm going to stop with for now. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this episode of The Force Feed. That is going to do it for today. Stay tuned next Monday for another episode, keeping you up to date on all the most recent gaming news and announcements. Once again, this has been Force, and you have just been Force Fed.